If you're on cruise ships, whether it's MSC or some other line, and you get a chance to do a behind-the-scenes tour or a ship tour, definitely, and if it fits in your budget and time schedule, definitely make sure you go on a behind-the-scenes tour.
Hello everyone, my name is Fatima Mahmood. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my 2023 playlist of MSC Meraviglia traveling for the first time, for the first round, to Bermuda in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm leaving September 18th and returning to New York City, Brooklyn Cruise Port Terminal the 24th, so that gives us 2.5 days in Kings Wharf, Bermuda.
This is the ship tour. You've seen me talk about it on Meraviglia as well as Seascape. Here they give it to you for the combo 3 hours and they list a price. This is cheaper than I think other ships, only Seascape. And down here they tell you that the tours can only happen when the ship's berthing time's in port, and then they also talk about a discount if you only want to do the part of it. So watch my other videos on tips about this. Remember, you cannot take pictures or videos, they confiscate it. So when these tours happen, they don't tell you the exact date or time. They try to figure it out every cruise route. So you have to, it's always a trade-off between if you've already booked an excursion and it leaves early in the morning. A lot of these happen in the morning or the afternoon. It's a trade-off. You don't know when these will happen, but then you may have already purchased other excursions, or you made plans to do things not excursions. So if you really want to do behind-the-scenes ship tour, you might have to adjust some of your plans that you made pre-cruise. Past video I discussed the difficulties with the behind-the-scenes tour on the MSC Meraviglia in terms of logistics and the staff organization, and I compared it to, even though I didn't take the tour on the Seascape, how organized the staff was in terms of information. And again, the frontline staff that you see can only work off of information that managers and other departments give it. I will say back again on the Meraviglia, some folks have a little bit of trouble at the excursion desk understanding exactly when it's confirmed which parts of these tours will happen on what day and what time. So there can be what appears to be disorganization, but again, they just have to wait for information from other folks.
I'll let you scroll through the descriptions on both documents related to the behind-the-scenes ship tour.
Today is Friday, September 22nd. We left Kings Wharf, Bermuda. This evening I received this notification. I'm doing part 2 of the ship tour, which is the hotel, backstage area, laundry, provision gallery, and the theater. And it's going to meet Saturday at 8:45 a.m. at the Broadway Theater. Keep in mind that we have to fall back an hour tonight because we're going from Bermuda Atlantic time to East Coast time, New York City. And again, get this the night before. And if you want to know ahead of time what time the meeting will be, you can ask the excursion desk. So this I find surprising compared to my other part of the Meraviglia ship tour. I did a video about that, so you can check it out. But obviously I've shown you other videos on the notification that you cannot have any cameras, mobile phones. This surprises me that you can't bring bags and backpacks.
As I've said in my Meraviglia ship tour video, the official ship tour video, they confiscate everyone's cell phone and put it in a bag of their own, and a person carried that bag with us throughout the tour, and at the end you got your mobile phones back. So this idea that people use their mobile phones now for keeping time. People under a certain age do not wear wristwatches anymore. So if you want people to arrive on time and you don't you tell them to leave their mobile phones in their rooms, that's assuming they're not going from breakfast directly over. And at breakfast they need to keep an eye on time. This seems a bit convoluted. Let's see what services they will provide and how strict this is going to be. Describe overall how part 1 of the ship tour differs from part 2. Part 1, command and control areas. These are 2 separate areas, and essentially you'll visit 2. I don't know if there's a third area that I can't recall. But in each area, multiple speakers will connect with you and speak with you. Sometimes there might be a primary speaker and other speakers chip in, but there's multiple people who'll be speaking to you. I found them very much, these crew in these rooms very much want to engage with the passengers. Often they don't interact with passengers in their daily routines and their daily duties. So they really want to talk to you, engage with you, tell you things, share information, and have you ask questions so they can have back and forth with you. Same thing on the bridge, you'll meet the captain, the first mate, other officers. So there are multiple people present, and they're all very much aware of the fact that you're there and asking questions and looking around, so multiple people want to speak with you, communicate with you, share information. Backstage area, there are multiple more areas, but for each segment there's generally only one speaker. You might run into other people, they may say hi, hello, but generally it's one speaker per area who's guiding you on that aspect of the tour. You definitely have 2 hosts or hostesses with you at all times, plus in all aspects of these, have to have a security guard, a minimum 1 security guard accompanying the whole group throughout the entire ship, because you're behind the scenes. So those are the 2 overall differences between the 2 parts of the tours. And again, on every MSC ship, I think it's divided into it's on 2 separate days. Packages are sold as one full package for 3 hours, or 2 hours separate from a 1 hour deal. Here's my review of the second part of the behind the scenes tour. Some ships call it the hotel servicing, or this is the backstage areas. You've heard from me in other videos where I had negative experience that overshadowed what we saw on the command and control ship tour. I will say this started promptly on time, and there were no logistical issues to starting in terms of the crew. I told myself to wear closed-toe shoes, and then I forgot to wear it to breakfast. And I showed up there, and they immediately saw that I had open-toe shoes and said, "Ma'am, you're going to have to change your shoes, and you have 5 minutes." Then asked, "Well, where will I meet you if you guys start without me?" And she says, "Okay, we'll wait for you." And it turns out that we met in the Broadway Theater, and that was because the first few behind-the-scenes aspects that we start with were going to be in the Broadway Theater. Even if I was running late, it would be fine. You just miss out, but you're still in the same space. You're not losing the group, and they're moved to a different physical space than where you are. So I showed up with closed-toed shoes. The lighting technician guy had spoken. I had missed him, but not by much. Showing the people the control panel and said, "Oh, this is all pre-programmed and computered, and when it's his time to do his job, all he has to do is hit a couple buttons, and then everything happens, because again, it's been pre-programmed and rehearsed in the computer." And the next treat was that we got to stand on the stage of the Broadway Theater, deck 6, at the very front of the ship. And we got to feel what it would be like to be a performer, standing or moving or singing or being a musician playing an instrument on the stage while the ship rocked back and forth. And this morning we did have choppy waters, but in general, when the ship is moving through water, you're going to feel it the most in the front and the back of the ship, especially in the front. We saw the lighting, we saw the LED lights, and I think the most memorable part is the physical feeling of us just standing on a stage that was moving and imagining all the movements that all the performers go through while having the light on them, etc., to recognize how unique that experience is for them. And it comes with training in adaptability and having to get used to doing a choreography that you learned on land on a moving ship as the waves go back and forth, especially if there's bad weather. Someone asked about canceling performances in bad weather, and basically the ship's captain and the hotel director who oversees all hoteling functions, so that's all the non-technical aspects of running the ship, the hotel director, that person, the captain, will talk and they will make a decision. Plus the performers, especially if acrobatics or aerials, they're professionals, so they know in what situations it would be dangerous for them, under what conditions would be dangerous for them to perform their routine, and so they may be sharing that knowledge and information with the hotel director, cruise director, and the captain. When we went backstage to the performer dressing room, there's a male section and a female section, and we learned that the performers were brought together in Rome and they practiced and they learned the choreography that obviously the company or whoever the company hired. So someone besides the actual performance determines the choreography, the arrangements, and how everything is going to get put together. And then the performers learn it and practice it on land, and then video recordings of each day are sent to the company for the company to decide if this set of performers with this set of content is ready to go and on which ship and on which time. Performers on land have to know how to put together their costumes. They have to do their own makeup and their own hair. This is all on their responsibility. They will spend about 4 months in Rome on land coming together, and then they will be brought on the ship where they have to retrain themselves and relearn everything to adjust to the movement of the ship during their performances. If there is a major damage to a costume, then the onboard tailor will assist in repairing the costume. However, everything that is not major that happens to the costumes, and there are many of them, the individual performers have to fix and maintain their own costumes. They also have to wash all their costumes. They obviously don't do that daily because of the sensitive nature of the fabrics and of the multiple types of fabrics that are used together in a costume, but they themselves are responsible for the maintenance and cleaning of all of their costumes during their contract. The back scene where the performers get ready seems like the backstage of any sort of ballet or musical performance. I did a series on Cirque du Soleil, and we did back scenes and where the dressing rooms are, and that dressing room felt pretty similar. The dressing room is also a little bit warmer. It is temperature controlled in order to help preserve the materials the costumes are made out of. The costumes are also put together via Velcro, so it's easy for each performer to very, very quickly do a costume change, and also people can help them if there's availability. People can help each other get in and out of their costume. The staff who was giving this part of the tour, the speaker for this part of the tour, said that currently Meraviglia has the only live performing band on an MSC ship, and I think that seems about right. My previous MSC Meraviglia itineraries and my seascape itinerary did not have live performing musicians. So they had pianist, bass guitar, regular guitar, and a drum. And it's 4 guys, and I think mostly they're from Latin America, Cuba, Venezuela, Colombia, and another country that I'm forgetting, but it's 4 male musicians. They're the first live performing band on MSC Meraviglia. Going back to the performers, someone asked, how many hours do they work a day? And so for other job groups, it might be easy to say this is an 11-hour shift. But the performers in their contracts, they have other responsibilities. Instead of just showing up and performing, they have to rehearse a little bit, especially in the beginning. They have to maintain their physical health, so they are required to work out in the gym. They are required to eat a healthy diet. They are required to make time to check their costumes. So their days may not be a set number of continuous hours, but every day they may spend various chunks of time working on things that lead up to their performances. So then there were other aspects of the tour, other segments, and this one is one where I'll say if you have a smell sensitivity or odor sensitivity and it's very heightened, then the behind the scenes or backstage ones are going to be very difficult for you to do unless you have your own treatment plan for helping you deal with strong smells, because in the next several sections there's going to be heat and there's going to be strong smells. So after the theater, we go to the laundries. On Meraviglia, the laundries are in two places, deck 3, deck 2. Both those decks are underwater. So when we get down there, we are officially underwater in the ship, below the water line. The machines are huge and the machines are automatic, but you need humans to monitor and supervise the machines. He told us in kilograms, like a large amount of water, large amount of chemicals, and a large amount of fabric that goes through the automated washing machines, the automated dryers, and then humans have to take it out of the dryer, especially like the linens and the bed sheets. The bed sheets are not fitted, they're all flat bed sheets. They're taken out of the dryer and then they're put through a large cycling, pressing, drying machine that automatically folds them. Again, for obvious reasons, they don't let you take pictures, but it's hard to describe and it's hard to remember. I'm telling you, the laundry room is run in 2 11-hour shifts, so the group of men who are working it are working 11 hours a day, and this is happening obviously day and night. Laundry is the first place where you're going to start smelling a lot of smells, like chemical smells that you associate with laundry and used water. You're going to smell that, so be careful if you have a nose sensitivity. Our general hostess showed us a very small laundry room on deck 2. That is where a small laundry room, and that is for the crew of over 1,000 to use. Just a few machines. If you have on your free time, you have your personal clothes, you can wash them yourself. You got to make an effort because you can show up there and then it could be busy. The crew uniforms, the main laundry service can take care of that at no charge. But personal items, you either do it yourself, or there are people on board, crew members, obviously laundry crew members, who in their free time, they want to earn extra money, so then they spend more time doing people's personal laundries, and you do it for a fee. That is a similar system that passengers have when they buy their laundry packages. Though obviously they use separate machines for personal laundry of passengers who pay for it, but the big, huge machines are for the practical use of the whole ship: pillowcases, flat sheets, comforters, towels, restaurant table linen, that sort of thing. And so again, crew personal items, they wash themselves or they pay a person on that person's free time, very little free time, to earn extra money and do laundry for other people. Next segment was the huge galley. So this was done on deck 5 behind the Waves restaurant, and that is where the one galley for the whole ship is. Before we went into Waves, and I think this goes back to why we're not allowed to bring bags and cell phones, is we were given these plastic kits, and in the plastic kit is a plastic huge overcoat, almost like a poncho with sleeves that you had to wear. You had to put blue plastic booties over your closed footwear. You had to put on a plastic cap, and they had regular face masks. The idea is nothing from our bodies should be going into the galley that could potentially bring in any sort of contaminants. And in the galley, obviously, the galley crew does not go through all precautions, but there are precautions and there are steps in place they have to take in terms of their clothing, their aprons, that sort of thing. So we go behind Waves restaurant into the galley, meet the executive sous chef, who is one rung above the executive chef, and there are other sous chefs underneath them. A lot of facts, a lot of details. It is a continuous running machine down there. Lots of long hours, lots of precise deadlines they have to meet. So this is very interesting, and it's also very hard because I've had complaints about food on MSC Meraviglia. Other people always complain about the food on MSC Meraviglia. But so much hard work and so much bureaucracy and so many steps and procedures and protocols go into maintaining a galley that it's like double-edged sword to have a food experience that's not so great on any MSC ship, and to know how hard all the staff are working in such difficult conditions. So the sous chef went over tons and tons of facts. Here are some of them. Guidelines and regulations they use to maintain their galley are the U.S. food regulations because they're in the U.S. ports. Now, hopefully I didn't get this wrong, but because they're servicing and they want to get in on U.S. ports, the U.S. regulation is that they could only buy from U.S. ports. I think they said that it's a little different in Canada because they have multiple Canadian ports. When you go there, you can buy from. And the easiest thing, I think, is for cruise lines to be in the Mediterranean, in which they can buy from any of the ports that they're in. So the restrictions are a little bit less stringent. But someone correct me in the comments if that seems wrong. This is one huge galley. He showed us a separate section that is specialty food preparation. And what that means is the allergies, and he was allergy certified. He was allergies, kosher, halal, pure vegetarian. The specialty diet section is completely separate, and then all the other food is cooked in one major gallery. That means all the main dining room food, the main buffet food, the specialty restaurants, room service, the yacht club, all of that happens in one big galley. That big galley is split into hot and cold, but other than that, other than the specialty restrictions food, all of it, that food is cooked in one galley. Whenever they're in a U.S. port, they get inspected, so following protocols, using a logbook, and following all the regulations is very important. If they don't get 85 points, I think they get shut down or something very bad happens. Before COVID, the U.S. requirement was the ships had to carry in storage 21 days of backup food. Post-COVID is now 45 days of backup food. And this includes things like a pandemic, like COVID, but also storms, and ships can't go into port and they have to spend an extra sea day, that sort of thing. In the uniforms are all white, but they have neckties or neck apparel that's based on different colors. Black being the most senior, maybe like yellow or red at the bottom rung has the least amount of experience. So someone wears these neckties to indicate their level of experience, and as someone is demonstrating mastery of the subject material and the ability to work in these conditions, I think they go up in the color hierarchy of scarves. I don't remember the numbers, but he explained that, when looking at the whole menu and the set out menu for every single aspect of all meals on the ship, he was given something like there's 5 meals a day and he gets $11.50 per passenger for all 5 meals, or something like that, per person per day budget that sous chefs and chefs are expected to achieve. So it sounds very complicated, and obviously a better lecture by someone with in-depth knowledge makes sense, but that's sort of one of the ways of measuring and understanding the food management process of it. When talking about sanitation and the multiple sanitation procedures they go through at every step, including, so the sanitation that happens in between meals, there is a night shift a deep sanitation that happens. There's a separate closet where they, like a room with a rack that they use all their cleaning products. And it's locked, and only at night is it unlocked, and the night sanitation crew comes in and cleans everything, deep clean, and the night supervisor has to sign off for it so that everything is ready by 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. for the breakfast to start being prepared. So sanitation, but they talk a lot about bacteria and food, and the way they control food quality is there's one thing called a time control, which is after 4 hours bacteria begin to develop in food. There's also temperature control, and he gave very specific numbers for hot food when it's out, and cold food when it's out, and hot food when it's stored and not served yet, and cold food when it's stored and not served yet. That's called temperature control. So food quality is maintained at the preparation stage through time control and temperature control. That I felt probably maybe not have taken the longest part of the behind the scenes tours, but because it was filled with so much content and different sections of the gallery that he showed, it probably felt like the longest part. And because he was packing in a lot of information into what he was saying. And also, the chefs have different certifications, like allergy or kosher or halal certification, in terms of just having knowledge. And even if they get kosher meat from outside or halal meat from outside, they still have to be certified in other processes to handle and prepare and maintain the integrity of those specialty requests and meals. Then we were taken to a place called Deck 4, which is the main thoroughfare for all the crew to walk and travel through. Deck 4. The nicknames are given to it were I-95, which is a major interstate highway in the east coast of the United States. So we went to that I-95. And it's like a basic hallway that we have in the regular ship. It's a little bit wider, but with our group walking through it, it made it that much more challenging for the crew, who's used to walking very quickly and moving items very quickly through it. It made it a little difficult for them. We always had to keep our backs to the wall and readjust ourselves to allow crew members to go through with their items. In Deck 4, we were shown the provisions room. So this is like food storage, and that's one thing. And then we went to a second room, which is the dairy provision, which is a cold room, but it wasn't a complete freezer. It wasn't like an ice box. Those aspects were very quick because we're not allowed to go into the whole room. They opened the door, they let us put one foot in to see it, and then take our foot out. Going back to smells, in the laundry room there are laundry smells. In some of the back staircases we were taking, there was paint smells and other cleaning smells. In the galley, there was all sorts of food smell, including when they were disposing of food and making it into a pulp so it could be liquefied, and then the processed liquefied food could then be dumped into the ocean per international regulations of how far out at sea you have to be to dump food into the ocean, processed or pulp food. That has a smell to it. So there's a smell of food being prepared at different stages, like breakfast was being cleaned up and then lunch was being prepared, and there's a pastry section. So all these sections had smells, and then you had the food waste smell, and you had other chemical smells in the galley for cleaning. Also, the Deck 4 thoroughfare, Broadway, I-95 major walkway itself had smells because it was a place that connected to lots of different resources and things were being moved through, so it had its own smells. So again, be aware if you have smell sensitivity. Finally, we're taken into a regular hallway that passengers use, and we're given a sort of mini lecture on safety and regulations by our hostesses who were guiding us through each of the ship's aspects and each of the segments. Safety of the passengers and crew is very important, and so many rules and regulations are geared towards that goal. I think I'm telling the story right. When a safety inspector comes on board, he might stop a random crew member and say, okay, what is your ID number? When the crew calls in about an emergency, when they pick up the phone in the hallways and call in about emergency, they first have to identify themselves by their ID number and not their name. And then they have to know exactly the space in the ship that they are, whether it's the long 7 vertical sections or the horizontal decks. And each section, it's hard for us to see as passengers, but the crew knew it. In certain areas, it's written on a small plaque or a small metal thing where the numerical section of the ship you're on. You're a crew person, there's an emergency that you're experiencing and you have to, or you're observing it and you have to call in the nearest phone and report it. You state your ID number and you state the exact location based on the numerical identification of that physical space. So a safety inspector doing an inspection can randomly stop you and ask you these questions. People can get in trouble and the ship can get in trouble if people don't know it. So our hostesses were quizzing each other on getting each other the accurate information. You are a fiancé couple or married couple, and you have been assigned to work on the same ship. Ahead of time in your home country, well in advance, you have to work it out with your people and the people you need to notify to provide advanced proper notification that you want to share a cabin. Generally, cabins are two people per room. Obviously smaller than the cabins that passengers have, but generally the passenger is also at minimum 2 people, unless you have a solo supplement. If your significant other is a passenger and you're working during that itinerary, you are not allowed to go sleep in their room, and they, the guest, are not allowed to come to your room and sleep there. That's one of the rules. I asked about captain and first mate and someone else in a high position that's up on the bridge. So the captain has his own suite. It is close to the bridge. The first mate also has his own suite. He is close to the bridge. They each have their own butler, so obviously if they want their food brought to them, that service is going to be provided already, but generally the captain can eat wherever he wants, so the hostess was saying you will see him walking around on deck 6. I haven't seen him, but I haven't never seen the Meraviglia captains walking around in the passenger spaces. I've definitely seen the Seascape captain near the entrance lobby on embarkation day walking around, and I saw him on disembarkation day walking around making himself visible to the passengers and crew. Also, back in the galley, something that I forgot, sorry to jump around, is that all positions are rotating and on contract. So sometimes there will be head chefs or executive chefs coming in, and they will bring in a new item or a new dessert. Like on this itinerary with this executive chef Rocco, he brought in focaccias, and he brought in a strawberry puree, but it looks like a strawberry ice cream dish served in like a fancy new cup that they normally don't use. So he brought that. So that can vary from chef to chef. One thing I will say is that ship tours are for people who like to know the behind the scenes, the facts, the details, the logistics, how things come together. Obviously, the first part, the bridge, lots of people like to see the bridge and are willing to pay money for it. The engineering room, the command center is really good for people in engineering who like that sort of thing. But the ship tour is all about putting the best foot forward of the ship. Staff is always going to put on the glossy brochure positive face of the ship. One thing they said that I didn't agree with, that the ratio of the current, it's 4,400 plus passengers and 1,600 plus crew, so it's a 2-to-1 ratio, 2 passengers for 1 crew, and I don't think that ratio is accurate. I think it's based on experience and feeling. It feels like it's more passengers per crew, and that's why the crew is a little bit worked. Management, and also, this is last data, so everyone has gripes about MSC. Of course, people have gripes about all cruise lines, but in particular, I found that people complain about MSC more than other cruise lines when they're comparing it to cruise lines that are of different backgrounds. And just to say that the behind the scenes tours are not the place to bring up gripes and concerns with the crews who are your ambassadors who are taking you around. Their job is to take you around. Their job is to give you the glossy brochure tour. Their job is to give you the positive tour of the ship. Complaints go elsewhere. They go to guest services and airing out complaints on its tour. There's no space for you to do it. Disruptive, and you're not being heard by the correct people if you do it. I'm not saying anything happened. I just think that some people might want to take a tour or have already paid for the tour, and negative things happen by the time it's their last day or their sea day, and they want to air it out, and this just isn't the place.
It's possible that the various speakers during the MSC hotel part of the ship tour are not given much guidance or training about public speaking or how to present their information, so offer this advice. Often if you stand very close to the speaker in the whole group, then you will hear what they're saying very clearly, especially if they're sharing lots of details. However, the people in the back of the group or in the back of the line can hear the least amount of information. Because all people are paying the same amount of money for the same ship tour, there's an unfairness aspect that people in the back get to hear the least amount of content, or they miss out on the content that people standing closest to the speaker are able to access. So if there was a way for each speaker to repeat things to one section of the group and then to the other section of the group, which is usually in a back of a line situation, that would even things out. Or if the speaker could wait to begin speaking and sharing information until the whole group is around them, even if the group can be sizable at times, that would even things out. But it's a shame for anyone to pay this amount of money and not be able to hear what the speaker is saying, because in this section of the ship tour, the spaces are very loud. So it's really important to stand close to the speaker to be able to hear the description about how this space operates on the tour.
If your budget allows you to do behind the scene tours of ships and your time schedule allows for it, do it. It'll give you a deeper appreciation of all the services that you do receive as a passenger. So thanks for sticking with me during this long video. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching my video. I'd love to hear from you on email at fmahmood@wellesley.edu. You can also find me on LinkedIn at that address. And if you do send me a connection request, please go ahead and send me a note. Before you go, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And please go ahead and watch my next video. Thank you.